Welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of Canadian Boxing Hub here. Gonna go into this episode, obviously, a review of yesterday's just fantastic day of boxing. We're in the good times. I think that's fair to say. It's been a long time to be able to just sit through for months and months of good cards and boxing. Honestly, maybe never in my lifetime. So just great to see that we have a schedule of great weekends to enjoy as fans, back to back to back, with cards that feel like the Super Bowl every week. So we're going to review and set up a wish list of what's next coming out of the last Crescendo. Obviously, big implications in every fight there. Talk about who we'd like to see for the winners and even some of the losers here coming up in the wake of this. Some of the scoring that we saw, we can get into that as well. Next episode, I'm hoping to put out tomorrow. I'm going to be chatting about, we've got a huge set of fights coming up here in Canada. I specifically want to talk about the Friday the 28th card in Quebec. Hernandez versus Giron. I'm going to be butchering some Francophonie and Spanish names this week, so bear with me. Hernandez vs. Giron in the main fight, and then heavyweight from Quebec, Alexis Barriere against I think what might be a real banana skin, but I think we're going to get a good fight, Ubaldo Ilagor from Mexico. So that's going to be a cool one. So if you want to see that one coming up this week, like, share, and help get me going with a subscription. Would love to have another place to talk boxing here. It's a good time. It's a good time to chat about the implications of everything. So would like to build up and get more people subscribing and chatting, commenting. Get more of a community going, because who doesn't love to talk about some boxing? All right, let's get into this. So I'm going to start at the top and work back. There's no bad way to go through this card because it was stacked top to bottom. But let's focus on the main event, Bivol Beterbiev. I guess going into the fight, it was Beterbiev Bivol with the defending champion. I mean, I think we got a distinctively better fight than the first one. I think, well, the first one was being described as a purist's boxing match, which was at the highest pace amongst, incredible athletes and, the light heavyweights. These guys are probably walking around at 200 pounds. They're not small men boxing, so there's implications to their punching. We just saw with the second fight an all-out war, really, just a technical battle at the highest pace for 12 rounds, and I think the judges got this one right, though not all of the judges. I do believe Bivol was the deserved winner, and I did think going in that it was going to be a Bivol decision, and, it was hard to imagine how he could be better than the first fight. And I did think Beterbiev was going to come in and be able to put more authority. He had 2 back-to-back camps without an injury, which is rare for him. I did think he was going to put in a markedly better performance. He's also, in his 40s now. But we just saw an absolute, all-time great performance from Bivol, an all-time great fight from the two of them, and this simply needs to be a trilogy next. There's no other fight for either of them before the Benavidez's and others get to fight either of these men, or, whatever else they plan to do. They just need to keep fighting each other as many times as we need to see, because I think they'll always be split by only a round, and then the other one will come back, and they will ebb and flow forever and ever, and we'll just see the best fights we could possibly see in the division. These are all-time greats, and we need to enjoy seeing them while they're here. So I think that's that one. There's no other fight for the two of them. Let's see it again. Let's see it a third time. Let's do it this year. Of course, then next we had our makeup co-main. Going into this week, Dubois versus Parker was being billed as really the main event. Um, in many ways, that's how it was being marketed. You've got Dubois coming off of beating AJ and getting this huge audience of kind of the general public in the UK. Um, you know, Parker was finally getting his shot at the belt here against Dubois, which he absolutely deserves. And then Dubois falls ill, and we still haven't heard from him or anyone in his close camp uh, about his illness, but he must be in a bad way, I suppose, and we'll wait to hear what he says and keep speculation otherwise. But I must say, I hate that we're already hearing rumblings from promoters and, the way Frank Warren is talking, the things Turki Al Sheikh, and then Alexander Usyk saying he wants him next. You know, I would partly hate to see it because I don't think, and I know others are saying this as well, maybe not the majority, but other people are saying it as well. Dubois doesn't deserve the undisputed shot against Usyk within 4 fights of being handily beaten by Usyk. Whatever you think of that first fight between them, it wasn't actually that close. If people only remember the low blow because that's the only clip they saw on Instagram, it doesn't tell the story of the fight. Usyk was in control of that fight. Dubois only had very, momentary flashes of success. And given he's on a very good run of form right now, and he deserved to be in a good fight against against Parker, and credit to him for picking such a high class fight, seeing as it was his optional. He didn't actually have a mandatory due, so he chose to fight someone as well ranked as Parker. But I don't want to see Dubois being rewarded for pulling out of a fight last minute, even if it was absolutely legitimate, which, up until proven guilty, I'm going to believe that it was absolutely legitimate and he wanted to fight. But I don't want to see Dubois against Usyk again. I want to see Parker versus Usyk, and I want to see Kabayel against Dubois. I think Parker and Kabayel have each earned themselves title shots. I think there's a couple ways. I think that's the easiest way for both of them to get the title shot they're due. If the powers that be insist on doing a Dubois rematch with Usyk, I think we'll see Uncle Frank pull some, magic with the belts. We know how close he is with the WBO, maybe the WBA. I could always see the WBC doing a silly interim move. Kabayel is the mandatory for the WBC. Do we see one of those 3 belts that Usyk currently holds be shed, become eligible again, and we see a top contenders fight against, say, Kabayel and Parker? If Kabayel and Parker were to fight for a vacant title, that would be an absolutely legitimate world title fight, in my opinion. They are the top of the top who are not named Alexander Usyk. Usyk is almost above champion now. He's a living legend who's still competing. For the remaining 2 fights he has, he's the GOAT. He's the one who we all know is the A side, the champ going in. So maybe I'm crazy for it, but I don't mind if they insist on the Dubois fight, which I don't want to see. But if they insist on Usyk Dubois, at least strip a title, have Kabayel and Parker fight for it. Both of those guys deserve a title shot right now, and if the titles are going to be bound up with Dubois fighting against someone he handily lost to, well, vacate one of those belts, Usyk, and let's see Parker and Kabayel fight, which would just be an incredible stylistic matchup. But anyways, I could rant on about the implications of the co-main event and who Parker and Bacoli should be fighting next. Quickly to touch on Bacoli, I think I want to see him straight back in. I know there's suspensions to be served with the boxing boards for being knocked out. So wait those times, get your medicals through, all the while be ticking over, getting in better shape, getting some pounds off. I want to reward and be thankful for a fighter who takes a fight on 2 days' notice. It's something that UFC fans have become normalized with, guys just jumping in and fighting, saving these cards. And I'm hearing a lot of people saying it was a terrible decision from Billy Nelson, from Shalom, from Bacoli now to a fought Parker. I want to see it, but guys need to be ticking over in the gym. They can't be, the guys who are getting wildly out of shape, and not to judge. I don't have the discipline of any of these guys. But you need to be ticking over in the gym. You can't be a Martin Bacoli who's picking up 35, 40 pounds of weight between matches and training camps. So, that being said, I want to see Bacoli back in another fight. I don't want him to plummet from the rankings and now been, found out, so to say. He saved that card. That fight at least, the card was still incredible. But he saved that fight for Parker. And I think both men deserve the credit they're due. Parker for beating Bacoli, albeit not at his best, and Bacoli for jumping in to save that fight and being willing to roll the dice, deserves to stay exactly where he was. In the 70s, when we talk about these guys being fantastic, their era being different, guys like Frazier were getting knocked out in a couple rounds by George Foreman, and we weren't saying, oh, he's a bum, he's out now. He would be back in a fight against a Ken Norton or another contender, Buster Mathis or something. So I want to see that normalized, and if hopefully Bacoli goes back in with an Ajagba fairly soon, or goes in with a Filip Hrgovic, is the fight I'd really like to see for both guys next. I think we need to get back to that because it's clear these guys are in the upper echelon. Him getting knocked out in 2 rounds. Anyone lands that punch on anyone, and that could have been a 2-round fight. So hopefully we see Bacoli back and Parker in a world title fight. Then we have the Stevenson Padley fight, and I'll say credit to Josh Padley. Well conditioned, in the spirit of ticking over. Obviously, he had to weigh in, so we knew he was going to be in some decent shape. But he looked in great shape, would have easily done the rounds if it wasn't for the punishing, body shots he was enduring. He looked fit to do the rounds. He was keeping up a good pace, and he wasn't just shelling up and getting through the rounds by any mean. But Stevenson, again, clearly has the ability to go into it, step on him, and win earlier, but he just does not take any risk. And maybe that's the smart thing to do, and he always remarks about being an amateur, but this is an entertainment business, and prize fighters in professional boxing understand what they need to do to go that extra mile to gain the audience, and Stevenson just doesn't seem to have it. He seems to be putting the, Money Mayweather moniker before the Pretty Boy Floyd days, and I think others have said it. I've heard this conversation, I think, on the Fight Disciples, but, you can't have that attitude towards the audience. When they're showing their displeasure in your fighting style, you can't tell them they're wrong. They're the ones paying a ticket. Stevenson, I think more of the same from him. Hopefully he's in a meaningful fight next. Adames and Shiraz. Adames won. I think that's clear. Everyone saw that. Shiraz was clearly that home fighter. Not only was Frank Warren, blowing a gasket by ringside. But Turkey Al Sheikh went so far as to go across to Shiraz's corner and yell at the coaches and himself that he was 2 rounds down and he needed to pick it up, which was, needed. Shiraz's team seemed to be telling him that he was doing fine. He was picking that Shiraz had a broken hand, and that was what was keeping him from being more offensively minded. Um, Nonetheless, Adames should have won that fight. An injury is a valid, factor in a fight, but the uninjured guy can fight on and score the rounds. So he did, and he deserved the win. It could be the making of Shiraz if this is a lesson he takes from it, but it's such a shame to see on these massive nights that are a celebration of boxing a guy who is the B-side, although he was the champion coming in, the B-side, lose, well, in this case a draw, but not get the decision that they're deserved. Obviously, we saw it with Dave Allen against Johnny Fisher. I know we've seen it in other fights and we've seen it in other judges' scorecards, but Adames deserved to win, and it's too bad. Zhang and Kabayel. Boy, Kabayel is a problem, and I touched on him earlier. I'd love to see him against a Parker or Dubois next. Agit Kabayel is maybe the best body puncher in the heavyweight division. Just absolutely incredible style of fighter. I think him picking himself off the canvas is even more impressive than if he didn't suffer any adversity in this fight. I mean, you're fighting a guy named the Big Bang. He's gonna whack, and he did. He put Kabayel down, and Zhang is so good, such a good technical boxer early on, and a big, huge southpaw, just really good boxer. But Kabayel going to the body and Zhang's age and size, means that his conditioning has never been the best. He's fit, but the forces of gravity and and time are undefeated. And then it just became quite clear, albeit the drop down or the knockdown, that Kabayel was going to come through with the win, and he did, and just unbelievable. Zhang's apparently saying that's not his last fight and he'll be back. I'm not sure where he goes next. Derek Chisora, I hate to say, maybe. And who knows, never doubt Derek Chisora. They're similar ages. You worry for Chisora because Zhang can punch, but Derek Chisora can go for days and days, and Zhang can't. If he can weather those first few rounds, maybe he could stop him. Maybe that is next. I don't know. Kabayel, like I say, I'd love to see him in a title fight next. He's earned that much. Then we've got the opener. And this was Smith Buatsi in what still might be the fight of the night. It's hard, when what you had from Bivol and Beterbiev. But Smith and Buatsi, what a great open to the card. Fantastic fight. Callum Smith looked like a cruiserweight in there. And it's a far shout, but I would say Callum Smith versus CBS. Call me crazy. That would be an incredible, just absolutely electric fight. Those two guys, the style mesh. I think Smith could put it on enough weight easily to fight a cruiserweight and carry it on his frame. I think that could be a good one. I doubt we'll ever see it. But Buatsi next, he should be fighting Lyndon Arthur, and maybe we should be seeing Smith against Yard. But it is tough. You feel for Smith. He had his back up in post-fight interviews about, the way people were thinking he was going to lose to kind of a domestic operator. Unfortunately, I think the only real fight for him next is a domestic clash. He's already lost to Beterbiev quite convincingly, and Bivol and himself will be fighting again. I think for Callum Smith, the best matchup that's available would be Anthony Yard, who's supposed to be fighting Lyndon Arthur, and I have no interest in seeing that again. So I'd say Lyndon Arthur in with Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith in with Anthony Yard next. But let me know what you guys think. Might agree, might disagree. As long as it's some friendly debate, let's have it. I will be back in a couple of days, hopefully, to pump out this video about the Friday 28th card. There's also some events on the 27th, so we'll talk local Canadian boxing on the next time out. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.